When Andrew Tate stepped onto the stage, live on TV, microphone in hand, and unleashed his fiery critique of Meghan Markle, the broadcast room went silent. In just minutes, he ripped apart the polished image she and Harry have spent years curating. "She weaponizes victimhood," he said. "She's destroying masculinity." She used Harry to abandon tradition. It wasn't just a hit piece, it was a call to challenge every aspect of her story, her identity, and her soft power brand built on progressive symbolism. Now that moment is going viral again, leaving viewers asking, was it a punchy monologue or a cultural reckoning? Because Tate didn't just come for Meghan, he came for the systems, the identity politics, the celebrity branding, the emotional economy that props her up. Here's a dissected account of how that night unfolded and why it matters far beyond tabloid headlines. Tate started strong. He dismissed Meghan's narrative of racism, not by denying prejudice exists, but by saying, "I'm darker-skinned and I didn't face that precise victimhood." Her narrative is a marketing play, cloaked in race but grounded in advantage. It wasn't polite, it wasn't nuanced, but it hit hard. It sowed doubt: is Meghan speaking truth, or selling a version of herself that keeps critics at bay? If you stood still watching, you clearly have thoughts. Drop sitpane below and hit subscribe for more no BS breakdowns. Then he drilled into Prince Harry. Not a passive partner, Tate argued, but a willing participant in his own undoing. Harry walked away from duty, Tate said. He traded unshakable stoicism for public therapy. From battlefield respect to cable news celebrity. It's not redemption, it's emasculation. It was a brutal accusation, painting Harry not as a man who chose a different path, but as a man who surrendered his legacy. The real spectacle, though, was Tate's portrayal of Meghan as social predator, someone who saw a vulnerable young prince and seized the spotlight. Her activism, her speeches, her memoir, they weren't born from passion, Tate insisted. They were spun to cement her brand, to enrich her narrative, while Harry paid a steep emotional toll. He widened his gaze. "She's emblematic of a system that valorizes fragility," Tate proclaimed. "Victimhood earns accolades. She weaponizes it." The emotional exploitation suggests the media and cancel culture machinery empower people to claim victimhood rather than accountability. Bam! An indictment of an entire empire built on privilege, press coverage, and identity optics. But he didn't stop there. He took aim at the institutions that enabled her ascent: the Hollywood elite, the media class, PR machines trained to amplify narrative over nuance. "You condemn dissent as prejudice," he snarled. "You claim racism or sexism. But when you're told no, your go-to is legal threats or silence. That's not strength. That's weakness masquerading as entitlement." Through it all, Tate positioned himself as a digital age gatekeeper, unfiltered, unapologetic, unscripted. Cancel culture can't stand the truth, he suggested. If you win solely through victimization or identity, you crumble under independent scrutiny. No wonder producers hector at this reputation. He wasn't just criticizing Meghan, he was threatening the entire building. For Meghan, it landed with seismic force. Her message had been one of progressive empowerment, breaking barriers, inspiring women, demanding dignity. But this was a challenge that demanded more than sound bites or defenses. It demanded substance, it demanded growth, it demanded accountability. And Harry, his silence didn't help. It allowed Tate's portrait of him as the emasculated prince who abandoned conviction and extinguished tradition to fill the room. No rebuttal, no mitigation, just passive acquiescence. That, more than anything, confirmed the narrative, a couple not united, but shifting as fast as the media storms around them. The viewer reaction was swift. Social media exploded, half cheering Tate on, half fiercely defending Meghan and Harry. But the moment itself felt different. It wasn't evergreen celebrity shade. It was the spectacle of someone dismantling an entire edifice of entitlement, an architectural critique of the Sussex brand behind the facade. Was Tate right? Not every word. His take on race, while provocative, clashes with the lived experiences Meghan has recounted. His critique of masculinity taps a real cultural anxiety, but paints men's emotional journeys with broad brushstrokes. And yes, cancel culture has moments of overreach, but used carefully, it has helped elevate injustice, not silence dissent. But that's not the point. The point is, his takedown pierced deeper than any news cycle or PR statement ever could. Now Meghan and Harry face a choice: retreat further, soft launches, quiet living, silence, or defy the narrative with proof of substance, real, global action, concrete diplomacy, tangible coalitions. They can lean into the silence that lets shame fester, or they can shake off the dust, step into frankness, and own their ambitions. Tate's critique endangered the brand, not because it was perfectly fair, but because it was stark, direct, and instantly branded Meghan and Harry as part of a system out of balance. Here's the test moving forward. Will Meghan lean into renewed advocacy? Will Harry reclaim his narrative through work over words, or will they continue the slow spin into curated irrelevance? Because moments like this aren't defeats, they're crossroads. Yes, Tate was polarizing. Yes, he's a provocateur. But the thing provocateurs do is reveal precisely where structures were paper thin, not to eliminate, but to challenge. It's not about agreeing with his tone. It's about recognizing that the spotlight now shifts back to Meghan and Harry. Can they step into the heat? Use this surge of attention to define real legacy, or will they simply disappear behind rebrand after rebrand? The public isn't set asking for bluster or defensiveness. They set asking, who are you really? What do you value? Why should we follow you beyond storyline? That's the challenge of being public figures. The bigger and brighter your platform, the harsher the questions, and the fewer the second chances. Tate's words hit Meghan and Harry where it hurts, not to shame but to demand: be worthy, be purposeful, be accountable. It's their turn to answer. And if they're unwilling, or simply incapable, the worst legacy of all falls not from scandal, but from an unkept promise of meaning. Follow the fallout, because whatever happens, this performative brand of victimhood just got a spotlight it can't ignore. Will the darkness grow their roots, or will they finally bring their own true light? That answer unfolds live, whether by spotlight or camera lens. That night on live TV, when Andrew Tate called Meghan a manipulative mirage wrapped in victimhood, things changed. The spotlight didn't just flick, it laser-focused on the cracks in the story she's been selling for years. These aren't minor promotional tangles or celebrity PR missteps. This was a full-on public unraveling, a moment that could define everything that comes next. Let's dig into what this means, why it matters, and where Meghan and Harry go from here. They started in celebrity country. Glossy headlines, celebrity profiles, TikTok blow-ups. Meghan was marketed as a global icon, black, royal adjacent, Hollywood-bred, media-savvy, a fresh new archetype. But the mantle of celebrity only works if substance backs it up. Andrew Tate's critique hit exactly that weakness. He turned Meghan's origin story, escape from monarchy, victim of criticism, global activist, into a PR scaffold with no anchors. And instead of letting that critique fade, Meghan's silence fanned the flames. The world didn't just see a rebuttal, they saw a retreat. That retreat matters. Because truth isn't measured in how loudly someone defends themselves, it's measured in whether they have to. Emotions aren't weakness, but defensiveness is a red flag. Tate's accusations of strategic victimhood aren't blown away by a few bland legal statements. You either confront them and grow, or you sidestep and erode. So where do Meghan and Harry go from here? 1. Stop curating, start creating. Their brand hinges on carefully managed narratives, but those crumble under unpredictability. The only cure is real investment. Policy campaigns, advocacy coalitions, charity initiatives, things people can map, engage with, track results from. 2. Embrace transparency. Pull back on legalities and paparazzi warnings. Acknowledging defeat on the live roast isn't fatal. It's human. It would be the first time we've heard Meghan process criticism out loud instead of dousing it behind the scenes. 3. Show unity. Harry's suspension of response speaks volumes. He stands accused by Tate as emotionally neutered, emasculated. A public gesture, a joint appearance, a direct statement, a collaborative project would do more for Harry's image than any memoir or docuseries. 4. Engage the world's gatekeepers. Hollywood, politics, global NGOs, they're watching. They want partners who can handle disruption, not pause under pressure. This roast is a proving moment. Film roles, speaking tours, brand partners all hinge on how they act next. 5. Prepare for satire, because satire doesn't wait, especially when you're public. If Meghan can't laugh with the world, she offers a permanent target. Responding publicly to satire, not suing, not blaming, is a mark of someone who's learned the medium and can thrive within it. One way or another, this moment will define the next decade. They can weather this, retreat quietly, rebuild covertly, surge back with purpose. That path works, but it requires more privacy and less spectacle. No Atlantic beach arrangements, no celebrity jugglers, just steady, unflashy work. Or they could lean into spectacle, the Sunday morning interview where Meghan contextualizes her pain and purpose, where Harry redesigns his platform around veteran mental health and global conflict work. Turn the spotlight into a springboard. What they can do is stay in neutral, because watchers across the globe weren't just tuning in for Anthony's broadcast, they were waiting with popcorn, waiting for the slip-up, the fracture, the moment where brand meets real life. Now they have it. Now the license to rebuild or unravel is real. Here's what we've been missing. Power isn't just inherited, it's earned every single moment. Politics, charity, Hollywood, they reward consistency, courage, resilience, and right now, Meghan is on her back foot. Her target is defined not by what she stands for, but what she reacted against. And that's not a brand, it's a survival mechanism. This roast is the wake-up call. It's not fatal, but it's urgent. Will Meghan dare to embrace the fire, step into scrutiny, rebuild a legacy from honors rather than optics? Or will she sidestep again, fade into signature logotypes and silent returns, hoping the world eventually forgets? Harry's role is critical. His choice is historic. Stand up with her, hold structure through the heat, define the next narrative together, or stay silent, conditionally tethered, emotionally distant, a symbol swallowed by spectacle. The public isn't laugh-tracking anymore. They're leaning in, looking for courage, looking for meaning. They've seen the brand. Now they want the product, or proof it exists. So here's where we land. This live roast was more than a viral moment. It's a catalyst for exposure, for reckoning, for metamorphosis. This fight isn't about defending Meghan, it's about building something that survives scrutiny. A foundation that laughs, heals, evolves, not flinches. That jarring moment on live TV when Andrew Tate leveled his blistering critique and accused Meghan Markle of weaponizing victimhood and draining masculinity from tradition was more than spectacle, it was a reckoning. And now the public is watching, not just what Meghan or Harry say, but how they become, because at this inflection point, every move matters. Every second of visibility isn't just performance, it's a vote on who they are and what they stand for. The stakes aren't tabloid, they're brand identity, their legacy. They're about whether this couple can pivot from viral conflict to purposeful leadership. So let's Sims break down what needs to happen from here, moment by moment. 1. Address the roast head-on. Meghan can't just let the roast linger like background noise. She needs to confront it, not by demanding retractions, but by processing it. Think a short, candid interview, acknowledge the sting, admit where it landed, name the potential gap between victimhood and ownership. It's not spin, it's vulnerability, and that's far more valuable right now. Even saying, "That cut deeper than I expected," takes away the vulnerability Tate tried to define. Public figures who stand and say they're human regain power. Those who retreat only reaffirm weakness. 2. Amplify real-world impact. Appearances matter less than impact. Meghan should choose a multi-month initiative, say mental health support for immigrant women, and commit. Appear on panels, visit centers, co-create toolkit resources. Make clear her brand isn't built on narrative alone, it's built on community and change. This isn't PR theater, it's legacy architecture. And done right, it builds walls too thick for satire to topple. 3. Let Harry lead with heart and action. Harry's story has always been one of transformation. Now it needs manifestation. A global veterans initiative. A foundation that supports military families in transition. Multiple press pictures that show him busy, speaking, planning, connecting. If he still stands on the periphery, the silence will echo Tate's narrative of emasculation and acquiescence. A public pivot to action, whether through an op-ed, interview, or event, gives him weight again. 4. Amplify, don't sit, isolate. Solidarity isn't optional, it's necessary. They need to appear together on a platform unconnected to glossy media. Perhaps a summit, a foundation launch, a thoughtful podcast series where they talk about critique, growth, resilience. 2 voices united against narrative erosion build deeper trust than months of silent imagery. 5. Build a communication bridge. No more legal threats. No more ghosting. Establish a media strategy that welcomes fair questions and answers them. Show that maturity isn't about shutting down criticism. It's about engaging with it. A public FAQ, responses not defensive, but clarifying. A personal essay in a respected publication, or a video answering tough questions, can control the narrative more than fade-out tactics. 6. Prepare for the next wave. Social media cycles don't pause. If they await the next moment passively, they risk re-entering the fray unguarded. Proactive planning, what to say, when to stay silent, what to double down on, is their best defense. Even if it's content light, clarity of message is powerful. This is who we are. This is what we do. Let's zoom in on why this matters so much. In cultural currency, credibility is minted over months of consistency, not a few viral moments. Every celebrity turn can be a turning point. Move wrongly, and you end up typecast, not as a content creator, but as commentary fodder. For Meghan, Tate's analysis, worthy or not, underscored something that many have believed: her persona is more story than strategy. Her lived actions appear secondary to her image. His words stung because they exposed how little the public could verify about who she is beyond the persona. For Harry, the moment's second purpose lies in his silence. He's the heir who chose choice over tradition, but now people wonder if priority might have outpaced purpose. Where's the cause affirmed? Where's the platform defined? Without these, he's the prince without kingdom, and that ambiguity is the breeding ground for narrative attacks. This roast was more than a moment. It was a mandate: prove something. Prove impact. Prove unity. Prove leadership, or risk fading with the next headline. Now what can they do? They can't continue ghosting the story. Silence isn't strategy, it's surrender. They can't double down on victimhood. That reinforces Tate's claim that victimhood is performative, not principled. They can't reposition this as a PR stunt. People smell contrivance. Values create authenticity, not press releases. Instead, they have a small window to build a meaningful comeback, months, not years. The cultural conversation moves fast, but public memory is fickle. There's still room to shift focus from scandal to solutions, but it requires a radical shift, less brand, more backbone. Here sits a timeline for a potential comeback blueprint. What they could do post-roast. Weeks 1-2. Joint visual statement acknowledging the moment. No legal references. Just public criticism hurt, but it sits spotlighting a gap we send are committed to closing. A short video with both addressing audiences together, offering gratitude for past support and signaling a shift to focus on impact. Harry teases a veterans forum, Meghan teases a women's empowerment initiative. Month 1. Meghan visits local nonprofit programs, shares photos, quotes, stories, not PR polish. Honest moments of engagement. Harry meets veterans in person, visits service personnel, makes public remarks on their behalf. Month 2. Launch of a joint foundation or project, focused not on media but on measurable actions, funding early childhood development, global women's health, veteran empowerment. A moderated Q&A with honest conversation about public scrutiny, learning curves, and their commitment to grow personally and socially. Month 3, plus. Consistent updates on project progress. Hard data, mentorship numbers, event attendance, community feedback. A limited public tour, conferences, charity events, think tanks, but not red carpets. Subtle, serious, purposeful. By month 4-6, the brand becomes substance. Not glossy, it becomes rooted. That's the pivot. That's the narrative correction. That's the pathway forward. But there's risk. People expect more. Any flop, backtracking, press spike, more stylized content will confirm Tate's accusation. And audiences tired of brand cinema will abandon ship swiftly. Their only salvation lies in grit, replication, and sincerity. Not performative apology, it's performative purpose that's lacking. People don't forgive image without integrity. They remember impact. And here are sitters why that matters. In global culture today, we're rapidly shifting from passive celebrity to accountability celebrity. Public figures aren't just figures, they're fiduciaries of trust. Each moment builds or breaks that currency. The roast didn't destroy Meghan and Harry, but if they let it define them, people will define them by their weaknesses, not their wills. We're still at the start of their new era. It's a make or break moment. They can rise or recede. In the wake of Andrew Tate's seismic roast, the landscape around Meghan and Harry is shifting fast, and not just in the court of public opinion. This is cultural gravity, and they've been thrust to the center of it. Crowd reactions to the roast were immediate and explosive. Some applauded, others condemned, but almost everyone paused. It became a collective exhale, a moment where unfiltered critique met crafted image. In that pause, people asked, who are they outside the PR? That question will define what happens next. Let's talk about the currents moving beneath the surface. A. Cultural credibility versus brand perception. Every celebrity operates on a currency of authenticity. You must be real enough for the audience to believe in you, even while you're living extravagantly. The SNL punchline exposed weakness in the armor. It suggested what many already sensed, that Meghan's spoken truth might be more performance than reality. That public perception is fragile and often informed by how people feel, not just what they see. They need to rebuild credibility, and fast. Not for brand, it's too late for optics, but for public trust, because ultimately, trust invites followership. Perception alone won't hold when action is required. Action is credibility currency. B. Realigning public narrative through initiative. The next wave, the relief campaign, will need to be anchored in action. Not celebrity, but accountability. Meghan's background opens the door to maternal health, legal equity, community empowerment. Harry's platform invites veteran rehabilitation, global conflict response, environmental policy. But synergy is key. They don't make sense individually, yet they can create sense together. What does synergy look like? Not staged visits, not slow marketing, but a cohesive platform that bridges their strengths without brand whitewashing. Imagine this, a global digital conference on intersectional mental health, hosted by them, including lived experience advocates, featuring a multi-channel educational toolkit. Or a documentary that follows a community before, during, and after an intervention. Something longitudinal, not episodic. Something that shows grit, nuance, and growth over time. That's how you stop being discredited and start being believed. C. Narrative recontrol versus reactive silence. Right now, silence reigns, and silence always favors criticism. Silence here is louder than spin. Silence confirms suspicion. Silence ties narratives together, like binding scars on a wall. So instead of silence, they need narrative recontrol, not denial, but direction. A clear message, we hear the critique. We're acting, not talking about action. They need to showcase action. Imagine a pivot statement. We believe in being useful. Here's our plan in motion. Then launch. Before headlines. Before someone else frames the moment. That's narrative integrity. D. Emotional storytelling that doesn't rely on PR spin. It's not about really publishing diaries, it's about storytelling through impact. A soldier turned activist tells his PTSD story. A single mother gets business training after Meghan's visit. A rehabilitation program saving lives from suicide. Those stories aren't puff, they're proof. And they shift narrative from sophisticated PR to fundamentally human. Tate treated Markle as a brand to be torn apart, but people follow stories of real people finding meaning. The Sussexes need to pivot from being their own story and push the spotlight to others, not self-center, but servant leadership. E. The tipping point, growth or fade. In public life, there's always a tipping point. You either reclaim relevance through visible evolution, or you fade into irrelevance due to invisibility. What will define them? Content without cause, or cause with content? Without purpose, content is noise. Purpose gives life to content. Is Meghan's world building just a backdrop for a new reality series, or is it the foundation of a rule set that reshapes public expectation? These questions will determine longevity. F. Harry Septer's role, from survivor to builder. Harry's transformation arc is critical. From the shy prince to wounded veteran, he's now at the cusp of becoming a builder, someone who constructs new spaces of support out of personal experience. Public image can pivot on demonstrable agency. He can lead, not by stepping back, but stepping up. Veterans coding bootcamps, climate-focused NGOs, young father magazines. He has the chance to define a generation, but it requires consistency, not cameo. G. A public repair strategy. Structured, open, sustainable. We've heard about soft relaunches and quiet brand strategy. It's time for a structured public repair strategy. Not launched from a beauty editorial site, but from action. Steps. Bridge appearance. Short, joint video. Validate criticism. Acknowledge what they're learning. Offer roadmap, not excuses. Pilot program. Launch first community initiative. Get pictures and data. Live feeds not from red carpets, but from neighborhoods. Media format, reimagination. Interview on serious platforms. Show vulnerability and conviction. Let voices others in the room narrate them. Report cards, quarterly progress report. Numbers, quotes, learnings. Not self-promotional, but communicative. Accountability builds trust. Scale sustainably. Expand from local to global via partners. Not productize, not merchandise, but amplify via collaborative NGO or institutional support. This is the blueprint for credibility. Any misstep invites more Tate-style blowback. Right moves reflect maturity. Wrong moves confirm suspicion. So here it is. In the shadow of that uncanny roast, Meghan and Harry stand at a moment of real choice, to be built or be broken, to plant seeds behind the headlines or fade from the frame, to be remembered or merely seen. What they do next defines not just their moment, but their meaning. It's more than PR. It's more than redemption. It's about whether the power they have, narrative, visibility, love, can be transformed into purpose that outsizes spectacle. If you're still watching, and if their future matters to you, say it. Engage. Ask them to step up, not step back. Because when public figures slip, the call of the audience matters. The call of the culture matters. The call for accountability matters more than celebrity ever will. This isn't the end, it's a chapter break. On this page, they wrote their critique. On the next, they get to write their answer. And people, your viewers, your allies, your critics, will be watching.